Hi there YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be tackling the backsplash tile job. Now just as a bit of a background, I am not a contractor. I haven't done any tiling in 25 years. It's been a project that I've wanted to take on here, and we've now put together the tools in order for me to do this. So just before we get started, so I am going to sort of step you through everything that I'm doing here. I did go out and buy some equipment. So for those of you who are in the trades, you can obviously detect this. Most of my stuff here is brand new. I bought myself a 7-inch rigid wet tile saw. I've done an unboxing and a bit of a review on that. I'm going to link that down in the description below, so you may want to check that out. I also picked up, now I've been watching YouTube, I've been looking at some of the professionals out there. They've done some reviews as well. And as a result of a review of a guy that has, has great channel and does some great stuff, I picked up the QEP Slimline 24-inch snap cutter. Now I will say this, it's much larger than the cutter that I require for this particular job here, but I thought I would pick up a cutter that would allow me to do some other things in the future if I wanted to do that. So I've also picked up a couple of trowels. I'm going to be going with a 1/4x1/4 square notch trowel. I've also picked up a 3/16 V-notch, so if I'm putting too much adhesive down onto the surface, I'll switch it out and move over to that trowel. We're going to be doing a 1/8 spacer as well. And then of course this is the tile that I'm going to be installing. It's a ceramic 4x12. We're going to be installing it in a subway configuration. It's actually a large project that I'm going to be taking on here, and I'm going to show you where the tile is ultimately going to be going. We're starting down here, we're going to work our way across, and then we are going to extend over to this other section of the kitchen. We are going to be taking it all the way down to the floor. We're going to be bringing the tile up to the ceiling. We're going to go above the window and below the window. We're going to try to keep the spacing of the cut tiles between the two left and right edges of the window equal. We're going to then bring the tile all the way around, and we're going to finish up into this corner. So it's a large project. I think the finished product will look great, and I will bring you along and share with you some of the things that I found to be helpful. What I've done here is I've actually laid out the first course of tile. I've indicated on the second row where the center of the tile is, because you want to take a look at how both sets of rows actually fall on the end, because you want to make sure that you are going to have the type of balance that needs to be done by looking at two courses of tile. One of the big challenges that I found with this installation was that there was really no great way to keep the subway effect going down the side of the cabinet up to the ceiling as well, and not to have little tiles in effect. I looked at one configuration that would basically have it stepped all the way up to the ceiling. However, it didn't allow for sort of the break in the tile to obviously give the effect that I was after with the subway. So I have spaced it out in such a way that we're going to have an equal sort of cut on the end. I know it's perhaps not ideal, but it is a solution that I think will give balance to the installation here. So I think we're happy enough with how it's currently laid out. You're going to see, of course, I've put the Schluter edge in just sort of as a bit of a placeholder here. I installed a block on the edge to carry the weight, particularly on the second row when I get that going. We're going to tile all the way up to the ceiling, and then afterwards we're going to remove the block and we will tile down the other side. It actually was a lot harder than I expected. The biggest thing that I found was the adhesive. It really slipped around a lot, so I really did struggle with that initially. As it turns out as well, when I started over here near the sink, it was a very awkward area to get into. So, to do it again, I would look at doing this back buttering technique, which is what I ultimately did over here on the one column. Now moving over to the second section of the kitchen. The first section is now complete. The tile is just setting up. I'm going to be running the tile from the right edge over here on the wall. I installed the Schluter edge earlier in the day. It should be now firm and set up to allow us to butt the tile into place. I've also put down two courses of tile. So I really found that this was a helpful technique in order to figure out what the spacing is going to be like. I marked the center on a number of pieces and then lined those up with the gaps as well, which gave me the ability to figure out what the first course is going to look like as well as the second. So we're going to have a cut tile similar to we have on the other section of the kitchen going down the one side of the cabinet. The cut tile that's going to be butting up to the window is pretty much identical on both sides of the window, which I think will really give good balance when we're looking at the wall as a whole. And then you'll see over here again, the second course has a very similar size tile cut on that edge. We're going to be bringing the tile into the corner, and then we're going to be taking the tile all the way up along the edge of the window, up to the ceiling, across here, and then ultimately back down this edge as well. I want to give you just a bit of an update in terms of where things are at. We've put in a couple of courses of tile. I've cut around a couple of outlets. The tile is starting to come along the underside of the window. So one of the challenges that I found here was the fact that the wall is actually not level. Not sure if you can actually see that, but there is a bow in the wall. And this has added to the challenge of what I'm ultimately doing here. And what I found that I had to do, so I've been trying to trade off keeping the tiles tight to the wall, but I'm also trying to keep everything level. So with that, I found that I've had to come off the wall a little bit further than I would have liked, which has meant that I've had to bring the tile out a little bit. So there's more adhesive behind some of the tiles where the wall dipped in, but overall the effect has been quite good at this point. All right, so one of the challenges that I'm seemingly having here is getting this adhesive onto the wall and not having it go everywhere. So I'm just going to put some adhesive down as a starting point, and then I'm going to switch it around and use the notch side of the trowel. But it just seems to move a lot more than I'm comfortable with. Again, I'm just going to try to get it laid out here onto the wall, and then we'll turn around the trowel and use the notch to get the proper thickness of it. So. Doing here just in those areas where the wall was a little bit going inwards, I've laid the adhesive down on the wall, of course, and I'm just now back buttering the tile that's going to be going into place. So I'm going to set the tile. I'm going to just get it seated into place. I'm going to lay out the whole row, and then I'm going to come back through and put the spacers in. Okay, so we've been making good progress at this point. I've managed to tile up pretty much the whole right edge of the window here. I have just really about a course and then a small cut on the ceiling. I've come across this one side. I've stopped just at the left edge of the window, and I've come along the bottom side of the window. I'm happy with the spacing between left and right. Now, it has left me with this little cut. It's really one of the unfortunate components of what I'm doing here. There are trade-offs when you're trying to figure out how to make everything fit nicely. So there's the other side and the balance that we're getting. I purchased a rigid wet saw for this project, and you can see here that saw allowed me to do a cut that wouldn't be possible otherwise. So the tiling project continues. I have to say it is taking a lot longer than I expected. Now the wall behind me, which is really going to be a focal point of the room, has turned out really well. It did take a long time. I took extra care to make sure that all of the joints were lined up. And unfortunately, with the fact that the wall moved around, it really required me to, keep a careful eye on, the depth of the tile. So we tried to keep it straight, tried to keep it, all in line, so that the hope would be that once it's all grouted, it would look like one continual surface. Moving on to the final section of the kitchen, I've been playing around with the layout. Again, this is one of the things that I could really recommend that you may want to do here. Lay out 2 courses of tile, so that'll give you an understanding of where your edges are going to be and what the cut sizes are going to be on each end. Now the layout that I actually think I'm going to go with, now it's going to have the cooktop a tile right in the center of the cooktop, and then tiles coming off on both sides. I think that balance is going to be most suitable for the space. The cut tile down here in the corner isn't bad. However, I'm not very happy about the cut tile that I'm going to be getting over here on the left edge. So there's going to be 4 courses of tile coming up underneath the countertop. There's going to be 2 courses with a very small, approximately 1.5 inch tile. However, I think to balance the tile presentation in the cooktop and the range hood, I think is going to be ultimately more important. The plan was to make sure that everything was level, and then I found out, of course, that the wall is moving out. So when I put the level right on the very center of it, you can see how the wall goes back away from the high point right here. So we've got this very high ridge on the wall, and it will extend over to this. Now it dips in right here. We're building up the tile a little bit thicker through this section right here. We're tapering it down. It is extra work, but I do want to keep everything level. So again, the suggestion would be to say, put a big level on the wall. At least give yourself an idea of what you're going to be dealing with. Goal for this section here is to keep everything flush and in line. So what I've done now, perhaps if I was better working the trowel, I could do it directly onto the wall. But I've done a technique where I apply the tile adhesive to the back of the tile. It's allowed me to build it up much heavier than I would typically like to see, but that's going to fill the gap. So we're going to now set the tile, and we're going to keep our spacer. So the idea here is I'm going to get the bottom spacer in line to catch the weight of the tile. So the tile is now sitting on the bottom spacer. You can see, of course, that it's out. So I'm going to set the tile, and just by gently pushing it back in. And I'm checking the depth of the tile here and this way as well. So we've got it pretty good on that edge. We're out a little bit over on this side here. You'll see the tile adhesive coming out of the top at this point, but I will come back afterwards and clean that up. So that's pretty good at this point. Now, after watching some YouTube videos on grouting, I decided to go with the Mapei Caracolor. Now, Mapei has a couple of different grout options. This particular line of grout apparently is quite a good grout. It is more workable than another product that they have available. I again watched some videos, and the other version of this particular product had a much shorter working time. And as a result, I'm going with something that my hope will be a little bit easier to manage. We're in the final stages of the project at this point. The grouting has been completed. I have wiped down the haze from all of the tiles. I've taped off the edges, so I'm going to be applying a silicone caulking to where the surface direction changes. So along the countertop to the edge of the tile, up along the side of the window, both sides. I find that by taping it off, given the fact that I don't have the experience of installing a lot of caulking, by taping off the edge, it allows me to apply a straight line of caulking and keep the consistency of this sizing pretty well, and to be able to pull it smooth when that time comes. So here is the finished product. It turned out really well. This was the wall that I started on, and I can see a few things that I would do differently in the future. Over here was really the wall that I was hoping would turn out quite nicely. It did take a lot of time. I really understand the importance of having a flat level wall for tile installation now. It required me to do a lot of work. I'm very happy with the layout of the tile and where all the cuts occurred. And I would recommend a project like this for anybody who is prepared to put in the time to work carefully because I think the end result is really worthwhile. So I hope you found this helpful. Hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for watching.